Good morning. Breathe. Today, I'm going to talk about a subject that I've known about for over 10 years. The title is Ninth Wave, Is Nesara Happening Now? I've known about the National Economic Security and Reformation Act, Nesara, for over 10 years now. I believed it to be true from my first in-depth study of it, as several of us in our Wednesday and Friday groups explored and discussed it back in 2001. Yes, it was around the same time as 9/11 occurred. In fact, the authorities were supposed to announce it that very day. It did not happen, obviously. Will it happen at the end of this ninth wave? Yesterday, my friend Mr. Ed from South Carolina, who also posts on Rumor Mill News, posted a story about Nesara ready to be announced right now. And it was from John McAfee's website. John McAfee is a person who worked for NASA, and he's one of the Nesara white hats who is very much involved in some of the prosperity programs and, of course, in Nesara. And it came from John McAfee's website. Mr. Ed posted it on Rumor Mill News and sent me an email directly to me, since he and I are in personal contact. He's one of my sources, and McAfee is one of his sources. In any case, as I said, Nesara was supposed to be announced on September 11th, 2001. We all know what happened on that fateful day. The Bush administration reneged on its promise, and they've kept on reneging. Now, of course, it's the Obama administration that has been obstructionist. But the situation has radically changed between 2001 and 2011. In this ninth wave, we are watching, those of us that are paying attention anyway, we are watching the collapse of the old system. Now, in some respects, the very designers of the old system have intended for the collapse. It's not something that caught them by surprise. It's interesting the way the light workers of our cosmos work. They take the best laid plans of the dark workers, the forces of darkness or evil or whatever you want to say, satanics, the satanic plan. They take that plan and they work with it with a different result in mind. That's why it's so difficult for people to understand what's going on. I mean, there are people that will say, well, this is just what they've planned. They've planned this all along. Yes, and as I said in a poem, God, in the 1980s maybe, God can say of Satan's plan, it's just a part of mine. The evil intentions of those elite individuals in our world who have controlled the financial world and thereby controlled everything else. Those who have created all these corporations, all these legal fictions. And remember, a corporation is by definition a legal fiction, and each individual human being, by definition in the current matrix structure, is also a legal fiction. What does that mean? It means that people do not know who we are. We've given up our birthright. We've consented to a system, the matrix, that is anti-life, anti-Christ, anti-love, anti-compassion, anti-fairness, anti-justice. It's against health. It's against everything that is good and for everything that's bad. At least that's what it would appear to be for those that open their minds and hearts and look at it honestly. But something is happening right now around the world that has not happened before. There is a global revolution going on in the evolution of consciousness. The people's voices are finally being heard. Why? Because the people are waking up. If you watch some of the demonstrations in different parts of the world, as I have, in England and the United States, where I can understand what they're saying, but it's happening all over the world. People are saying to the authorities, quote, authorities, no more. This is not acceptable. This is not acceptable. So if there was ever a time for Nesara to be announced, it is right now at the end of this ninth wave. And it would not surprise me a bit if this is what actually happens. Now, what is Nesara? Nesara happens in the United States. It was a bill passed in the Clinton administration at the time of the Farm Aid. Remember when Willie Nelson and all those people did the Farm Aid, where all the farmers were having the banks steal their farms and the big corporations were taking over their farms? And they won in the Supreme Court. The farmers, that is, won in the Supreme Court. And Nesara was the result of that. It was going to be taking down the Federal Reserve, the federal government corporation as we have known it. It was going to take this all down, but there was a gag order placed on it that even those in Congress that knew about it were not supposed to say anything about it. There was a strict gag order. And as I said at the beginning of this, it was supposed to have been announced by the Bush administration at the start of the 21st century. And 9/11 was the day that was supposed to happen. Some of the gold, some of the gold that was to back the new currency at that time was in the World Trade Center when it was blown up. And there are reports that they stole the gold and took it out of there. That is, the black operations. There's always a shadow government, folks. For those of you that don't realize that, the government that you think you see, behind that is a shadow government that actually runs things. It's actually the bankers on Wall Street and the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission and the Bilderbergers. These are the groupings of people that have been behind the scenes operating the shadow government, or the satanic plan for a new world order. But coinciding and running parallel to that satanic plan is a divine plan for a new world order, of which Nesara is an actually passed legislation within the United States. And yes, if you Google it, you're going to find lots of information and disinformation. You're going to have to trust your gut. But in essence, it takes the corporate government out of the way, sets it aside, puts a caretaker government, the Republic for the United States of America, in its place to temporarily stabilize everything, reform all of the corruption into a system of justice based on common law and based on equitable distribution of wealth. It's backed by the St. Germain World Trust and other world trusts. It's Nesara. It's the shape of the government of the future, which is a caretaker government until the people can fully awaken, those that are still asleep, and choose how we want our world to be operated. No longer under the matrix of domination and control, but based on freedom, based on natural, inherent, God-given rights that are unalienable and unalienable. They cannot be taken away from us because that is our birthright as human beings. And God always intended for us to come into our own fullness. Is it happening now? I believe there's a very high likelihood that this is the time. Do I know that for sure? Of course I don't. There's been lots of times over the past 10 years that I felt it was happening now and wanted it to happen now. But it's going to happen. I've not, even with all of the false alarms, even with all of the false hopes being dashed, or all the hopes being dashed, I still believe that it's the truth. We are going to have honest, integrable men put in charge of the United States, and that will have a ripple effect and go to every other nation on the planet. The things that the United States has stood for, idealistically, of course, has not been what the nation has been about. The corporation, acting as a nation, has been about for a long time. Certainly not in the last 30 years, and probably even sooner than that when Nixon went, go back as far as Nixon when he took us off the gold standard. Or actually, I think he took us off the silver standard. But anyway, the money was no longer backed by anything except paper and the promise of the United States government. And it was funny because one of the announcers, I can't remember what her name was or what station she was with, she said that gold isn't backed by anything. The dollar is backed by the faith and promises of the United States government. Yeah, as if that's good backing. The United States government has been a criminal organization, as has every other government on this planet that has operated, with the exception perhaps of some of the Islamic countries, ironically. Some of those have not gone along with this. And that's why they've had such animosity thrown at them, because they have said no, many of them. So we're going to have to learn how to get along in this new Nesara thing when it is announced. We're going to be told the truth about 9/11 and about all of the other lies we've believed were true for a long time. The 501c3s are going to vanish. The IRS is going to, if it still exists at all, will have a totally different mission. The United States military and the military-industrial complex will be turned to peaceful means. We have plenty of money to transform the world. We just have to stop spending it on war. War is profitable for the people that have run the banks and have run the world and have created the matrix. It has been very profitable for them. It's the most profitable enterprise on the planet. They build weapons to destroy things, then they pay their cronies and their friends to rebuild what they've destroyed. And it's a never-ending cycle of consume and replenish, consume and replenish. The consumption is the destruction, and then the rebuilding. But it's the same process over and over again. It's not sustainable, yet they've wanted to sustain it forever. They can't. Folks, the time is on our side right now. The energy is on our side. The best laid plans of the Illuminati are crashing down upon them. They are not going to be able to fulfill them because all along there have been white hats, God's angelic realm, extraterrestrials, and very honest and good people working behind the scenes to bring stability and to bring continuity to planet Earth so that we can actually learn the lessons that we came here to learn, step into our own wisdom, step into our own power, step into our own creativity, and blossom as we've never blossomed before. This is the time that we're living in. Right now, today, 2011, October, the final month, the home stretch of the 9th wave in the evolution of consciousness. The underworlds are all opened right now. Everything is being made visible. Some people still aren't paying attention. Some people don't want to pay attention. They don't want to know the truth. That's okay. It's going to be inescapable. No one's going to be able to get away with it. Nesara is happening now at some level, whether it's fully announced this month or not. It's coming into being, and it's going to change everything. Thank you for listening. Namaste.